আয়োজন চলছে। গেরিলাচন্দ্রে রচিত হতে চলেছে সকল অলঙ্কার, করছে উঠুক দলমাদল প্রবল দ্বীপের মতো আদিবাসী গ্রাম, রক্তে লাল নীলক্ষেত, শঙ্খচূড়ের বিষ ফেনা, মুখে আলঙ্কিত হচ্ছে বিষাক্ত মৃত্যু চিত্ত স্নার্থকুচিরা, অঙ্কারের সূর্য অন্ধোৎক্ষিপ্ত গণ্ডীবের ছিলা, তীক্ষ্ণ তীব্র হিংস্রতম ফেলা, বাংলা তোমার টঙ্গি পাশে চলকে চলকে বলবম চর দখলের ফার্কি বর্ষা, মাদারের তালে তালে রক্ত চক্ষু ট্রাইব্যুনাল ফুটে বন্দুকি কুর্তি দাও রাশি রাশি সাহস, এত সাহস যে আর ভয় করে না। ভয়ের ফ্যাকাশে মুখে কেমন অচেনা লাগে, যখন জানি মৃত্যু ভালোবাসা ছাড়া কিছু নয়, আমাকে হত্যা করলে বাংলার সবকটি মাটির প্রদীপে শিখা হয়ে ছড়িয়ে যাব। আমার বিনাশ নেই, বছরে বছরে মাটির মধ্য হতে সবুজ আশ্বাস হয়ে ফিরে আসবো। আমার বিনাশ নেই, সুখে থাকবো, শান্তিতে থাকবো, ইস্পাত হয়ে আজ বাংলাদেশ সারা পৃথিবীর মানুষ ঐক্যবদ্ধ হয়ে স্বৈরাচারের বিরুদ্ধে দাঁড়ানো উচিত, এটা আমাদের নৈতিক দায়িত্ব। ধন্যবাদ।
আমার দেশে
When is the last time we had our own rights in our own motherland? When the last time we have casted our vote in Bangladesh, we all 16 million people living with 19 fingers. Our thumb is missing. We don't have our thumb in Bangladesh. There's no vote, there's no voting rights in Bangladesh for the last 14 years whatsoever. There's so many things that we couldn't do in the last 14 years in Bangladesh. So many things. It will go on and on if I start it now. So this song is about our nostalgia, what we used to do in our country, in our beautiful golden country once upon a time, but not anymore. No way. There's no human rights. There's no human rights. There's no freedom of speech in Bangladesh at this beautiful last 14 years. So when the last time we speak our mind Bangladesh in front of us? Never. We can't remember actually. We're getting old and old every day, but still we can't remember when the last time we had that beautiful country we loved the most in our life, Bangladesh. শেষবার তুমি উড়িয়েছিলে নীল আকাশেতে ঘুড়ি, শেষবার তুমি কিনেছিলে বলো রেশমি কাছের চুড়ি, শেষ কবে তুমি তারায় মেখে খেলেছিলে ফুটবল, শেষ কবে তুমি আগুনে পুড়িয়ে পড়েছিলে কাজল, শেষ কবে ছিল তুমি জানো, যদি জানো তবুও মানো না এখন, মন জানে শুধু হয়েছ বড়, বড় হতে হতে বুড়ো হলো মন, একবার ফের ছোট হয়ে চলো আবার চলো শেষ করে তুমি, শেষ করে তুমি, শেষ করে তুমি, শেষ করে তুমি চল সবাই একটু করে হবার ছোট হই, স্বৈরাচার বিরোধী মিছিলে ভাগ্য ভগবান হাতে ঘুমাতে নিযুক্তি, এদের মতো
Thank you. Thank you, Rahat Shantulu. His name is, how do I translate it into English? In Bangladeshi, Jonathan Kudia. In English, it will be poet of people. PP, poet of people. Thank you very much. Please give a round of applause to Rahat Shantulu. Habib Rahman. Very nice poem recitation. Thank you very much, Masood Mithun. And we have many other singers like Sabir Haq and others. We will call them in a moment as soon as we get time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming up and joining us in solidarity with the 30th of August International Day for the Victims of Enforced Disappearances. We know that even industrial action, it was difficult for many of us to reach here, but we are successful. We are starting our program on the dot at 2 p.m. Isn't it? Excellent. Thank you very much, all the organizers and all the participants. Round of applause for all of them. Please. Thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we gathered here today not with any political agenda, but we gathered here today with a heavy heart because many of our friends, family members, relatives have disappeared. Many of families, our brothers, have been abducted back in our country. It could be indigenous Australia. It could be Tamil, Sri Lankan Tamil. It could be Arakan Rohingyas. It could be Kashmiri. It could be Bangladeshi. It could be many other asylum seekers who are hiding from this persecution. Ladies and gentlemen, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can. Who said that? The great Martin Luther King. After many, many years, we still remember that. And we are standing here today, not with darkness, with light, not with hate, but with love. Ladies and gentlemen, our objective today is to demonstrate solidarity with the victims of enforced disappearance. Our objective is to hold perpetrators accountable and ensure justice for the victims. Our objective, particularly the Bangladeshi brothers are here, one of the main goals is to hold Sheikh Hasina and her death squad accountable for ongoing enforced disappearances in Bangladesh. Our objective is to give voice to the voiceless. We demand stop enforced disappearance, bring back the victims of enforced disappearance, cooperate with the United Nations in forming an international commission into enforced disappearance, sanction perpetrators and ensure justice for victims. Ladies and gentlemen, without further delay, may I now call upon Nadina Dixon, the traditional owner of the land, Uncle Dave Bell, the Aboriginal elder and indigenous community leader, as well as Axel Foley, for the acknowledgement of the country and to tell us, to share their stories with us, First Nation people of Australia. we probably have forgotten what was happened to them. May I please welcome Nadina Dixon, Uncle Dave Bell, and Axel Foley, please.
Morning. Ngayon, Nadina Dixon. My name's Nadina Dixon. Well, Mabemi, Inyana, Waialawa. Garigo, Darwa, Yera. Yena, Waialawa, Ngayala, Butchie, Darabara, Yango. Acknowledging my ancestors here and acknowledging our elders of our Aboriginal community, emerging elders, and also acknowledging our community and our community elders. It's my honour to be here today to welcome everybody to the country, the land of my ancestors. I'm the eldest daughter of Dr. Charles Chicky Dixon, who was a renowned fighter for human rights and social justice, for Aboriginal rights, but he also stood with our global community, our global brothers and sisters, because whatever our human rights is under attack, we are all hurting. And so I'd just like to extend our solidarity, that we care about what's happening with our global communities. We can see you, we can hear you, and we will stand with you. Thank you.
We just want to share the past to our people. The atrocities and the genocide that's happened here right in Australia. 1967 was a referendum for our Aboriginal people. Before that, we were known as flora and fauna. Shame! Louder, people, louder! The massacres. The stolen generation. We just lost our icon, Uncle Archie Roach, who sung that song. The stolen generation, you know. So, you know, can we just have 1 minute silence for Uncle Archie, please? Thank you. We stand amongst all of you today. We hear your fight, and we hear all of you stand together. One thing is the system, the broken system that we live under, the Westminster law. You know, all these Aboriginal deaths in custody that's happened in Australia, not one person has been found guilty. Shame! We stand together as one here today, people. And I just want to, when Rocky gets up to speak, my brother here, he'll tell you about how oppressed the Aboriginal people have been dealt with in this country. You know, we're the First Nation people, the oldest living country in the Southern Hemisphere, 65,000 years. And you know what it is? It's the colour of our skin. We all equal here. We all stand in solidarity. Come up to Rocky. Please, brother. The spirits are with you, my brother.
I'm Rocky. I'm a child of the stolen generation, and I'm here to speak about silent killer, dispossession, imperialism, internal racism, embedded racism, and genetic genocide in conflict. So initially, when there was the frontier wars, probably my great-grandfathers fought against British colonialism and the government trying to run a new land. So someone had to lose, someone had to win. So my parents and grandparents became dispossessed. The people in that land. So growing up, I didn't know who I was. My mother didn't know who she was because she was taken because she was supposedly tough. So they put her in an institution and they told her that black is dirty and heathen and sooty and Aboriginal and white is heaven, snow and Jesus is God. So she said to me, what sort of marriage will you have if you think that everything that is dark is negative and everything that is good is white? So when they had assimilation in the stolen generation, they taught Aboriginal people to be ashamed of themselves, and they disrupted our kinship and our tribal society. So today, the silent killer now is institutional racism, colonisation, and dispossession. Even though you don't see them killing us, we're killing ourselves with drugs and alcohol and violence and institutions. We're the most imprisoned people in the world, and no one's embarrassed. Australia's not embarrassed because you're living off the fruits of colonialism. You're living off imperialism, and that's the thing. We support everyone in Palestine. We support people in the Uyghur people in China, and also the Tamil people. But I want people in Australia to understand that there's a genocide happening right now. It's cultural and genetic genocide. And it happens. And it's happening because the government wanted it to happen. They want us to kill each other. They want us to sell drugs to each other. So we went from a proud culture to a culture of dispossession. And this is where we are today. We're overrepresented in prison populations the lowest life expectancies. And my parents come from a long line of black generation of warriors, all the way from the Black Community, all the way from the 10th Embassy, where Gary Foley and Chippy Dixon and my parents and Isabel Crowe, they all fought, but now the issues we have are worse than theirs. They don't have to deal with ice and heroin and drugs and nepotism and all the stuff that my parents' generation had to deal with. We don't have to deal with anymore. Ours is worse because they had to get the vote. They weren't allowed to vote in Australia. My mother went to school in Korea. When she went into the shop when she was an adult, they told her that if she wants to buy something, she can't try it on because she'll stink it up. So that's how it was, and that's how it is now. And it's worse now because it's insidious, it's hidden. The racism's not as overt as it was, but they told a woman that if she tried a shirt on, she had to keep it because she'll stink it up. And that was 40 years ago. Shame! See, now I have to write with institutional racism in my head. So the church, what they did to her in that generation is they stole their identity and wouldn't let them speak their language. So now I can't speak a language. I don't have the land because someone else lives on it. And they live on it illegally. They've never, ever, ever apologised. They've never paid me compensation for the land that they murdered my family for. Now that is genocide. Cultural genocide is genocide. Genetic genocide is genocide. Linguistic genocide is genocide. It's all genocide. All of it's genocide, even if it's hidden. It's hidden within the system of institutional racism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was kind of forgotten stories of the struggle of the Aboriginal people of Australia. Thank you for reminding us. We demand justice. We are not sharing them. We are not sharing them to spread hatred. We are sharing them to ensure that it doesn't happen anymore in the future. But ironically, it's been happening. It's been happening and some people are not listening. And we know that one of the organizations, human rights organization, Amnesty International, has been working tirelessly for many years to ensure justice for them. And we have the representative of Amnesty International, Veronica Coman. May I welcome Ms. Veronica Coman to say a few words on this occasion, please.
Thank you, Shibli. Thank you, the organizers. And I'd like to acknowledge Auntie Nadina and Uncle David. Yeah. Thank you. So I'm an Indonesian human rights lawyer in exile here with Amnesty International. I would like to first read a poem by Indonesia's foremost people's poet, Wijitukul, who was possibly disappeared a few months before the trial of dictator Suharto. And this is Wijitukul was such a people's icon in Indonesia. There's no single rally in Indonesia that you cannot hear the lines by him. So I'd like to share with you, but mind you, I'm not a poet, so excuse my poetry reading. The title is, I am still whole and the words have not yet been destroyed. I am not an artist that makes news, but for certain, I am always bad news for those in power. My poetry is not poetry, but dark, sweaty words, crowding each other, searching for a way out. They refuse to die, even though my eyeballs are gouged and replaced. They refuse to die, taken away from home, repeatedly stabbed alone. I have already paid what they demand from me: time, strength, wounds. Those words never stop demanding. Always they tell me, you are still alive. Certainly I am still home, and the words have not yet been destroyed. So that's it. And we can see that how enforced disappearance is frequently used as a strategy to spread terror within society. Like in the poem, we can see that Vijay Tukul, when he was forming that poem, he already knew what was going to come to him. He knew, and also in his various poems, he also realized that his fate was coming sooner or later. So this kind of terror and widespread, it's a tool. It's sending a message not only to the comrades of the activists, not only to the family, but also society as a whole. That's how Vijay Tukul knew what was coming to him, because that already happened to many of his friends. And we knew that the greatest cases of enforced disappearance of all time, one of them is on this land. This is crime scene. This is the greatest enforced disappearance known as, more commonly known as stolen generation. And its impact, it's not as, it's not even terror anymore. It destroys the society. And also, if we get into the technicality, excuse me because I'm from Amnesty. So victims of enforced disappearance are people who have literally disappeared from their loved ones and their community. They go missing when state officials or non-state actors can be as well, grabs them from the street or their homes, then deny it. And it is always a crime under international law. And these people never been released, and or sometimes found dead. And this is a very serious problem in many countries. And like we see from the community today, it's totally a big, serious problem in Bangladesh, in Rohingyas, in the Sri Lanka, and also West Papua. So just this week, a few days ago, 4 West Papuans were forcibly disappeared. 2 were found dead, 2 are still missing, and the 2 were found dead were found mutilated by Indonesian soldiers. So this remains a huge challenge, and in 2010, the International Convention for Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance came into force. But unfortunately, Australia is not it's not party to this convention yet, and Amnesty is calling on the Australian government to ratify this convention. Not only that this will hold the Australian government to account in their military activities overseas, but also Australia can contribute in the international discussion in the forum in the UN on the enforced disappearance. And as an organization globally, Amnesty International calls on governments to investigate That's right. And then make enforced disappearance criminal under national law and implement the convention and also make sure survivors receive reparation and also to abolish the statute of limitations to end the impunity around enforced disappearances. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Thank you very much for being the voice of the voiceless people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to listen to some of the stories in a moment from the victims or the families of the victims. We are going to listen to the stories of ethnic cleansing from Tamil people. We are going to listen to the horrible stories, most terrible stories of persecution in human history from Arakan Rohingya people. We are going to listen to the stories of open-air prison Kashmir from Kashmiri people. We are going to listen to the stories of abduction and enforced disappearance from Bangladeshi people. We are going to listen to the stories of Indian farmers and Sikh people and West Papuan people in a moment. But before that, let me welcome another voice of the people. Another voice of the people, a newly elected senator, our beloved Senator David Shubin.
That was too nice an introduction. I'd like to start by acknowledging we're all gathered here together on Gadigal land. Thanks, Auntie and Uncle Dave, for their welcome to land and the honesty and the truth with which they started these proceedings. Because yes, we're on First Nations land, yes, we're on Gadigal land, and we're talking about the crimes of dispossession and the crimes of violence and genocide. And we're on a crime site right here, as Veronica said. This is a crime site, and First Nations peoples have a right to be free from continued forced disappearance in their lands, from their country. And every single jail in this country is a site of crimes against First Nations peoples. So this land always was and always will be Aboriginal land, and we start with that respect. But we're also gathered here today to commemorate the International Day for the Victims of Enforced Disappearances. And there's a reason it's an international day. It's because it's a crime that's going on day in, day out across the globe. And gathered here today in one of the largest acts of international solidarity I've seen on a day like this in Sydney are the Rohingya community and the Kurdish community, the Tamil community, the Bangladesh community, the community from India and Kashmir and Jammu, West Papuan advocates. And there's a thing that each of these communities have in common, and that is to ask their government here in Australia, the Australian government, to not let this day pass without comment, and to not let the crimes around the world pass without action from Australia. And let's be clear, the intentional disappearance of political opponents or ethnic minorities is a crime against humanity. And it's a crime that's happening on a daily basis in too many countries around the world. And it's the white van that turns up in the early evening in the streets in Sri Lanka and takes a Tamil political leader who's never seen again. It's the Indonesian military who barge into a village in West Papua and take the leaders, destroy the village, destroy the crops, and as we heard, the leaders are not seen again. It's the Rapid Action Battalion that has been acknowledged by the United States for causing more than 600 disappearances of political opponents in Bangladesh. And it's each of these crimes that our government, the Australian government, should call out as crimes against humanity. Yes! It's each of these crimes And what we have in common here is our joint humanity. And it's that joint global call for justice. And you can feel today how the call for justice is growing in strength and numbers. And we will get accountability. And our government should step up now. Because too often, Australia's government places narrow trade or security relationships ahead of the truth on human rights abuses. And it's Australia's government that refuses to talk and speak out against the Turkish violence against Kurdish minorities, because one day a year they want to celebrate Anzac Day on the Cove there in Gallipoli. And it's the Australian government that refuses to call out the disappearances and the violence against the Indian farmers, but even more intensely against people speaking up in Kashmir and Jammu for the right for independence, for the right for self-determination, because Australia wants to put trade and security relations with one country ahead of human rights. Well, that is a short-term strategy, and is not in the long-term interest of Australia or the world. So I'd ask you all to share what you have in common today, and then demand our government steps up. Because last year the Australian Parliament passed Majinsky-style laws. And those Majinsky-style laws allow the Australian government to name the perpetrators, to list the perpetrators, and ensure they can never travel to Australia, that they can't repatriate their stolen wealth to Australia. And they're on a global list of wanted peoples who will have no safe refuge. So let's make that call for the leaders of the Rapid Action Battalion. Let's make that call for those perpetrators of crimes against humanity. And let's not just be angry. Let's get active, let's make our government act, and let's list them under the laws. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, David Shubich. We want to see the application of that Global Magnitsky Act. And we want to see that all these perpetrators are sanctioned and cannot travel at all. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would now like to call upon former Senator Ms. Lee Rhiannon. Let me tell you that without her advice and support, we wouldn't be able to organize it today. Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you from our point of view.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. And I do acknowledge the very appropriate words from Uncle Amani today. And I do acknowledge the traditional owners, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their history, their culture, and their ongoing struggles for justice, which tragically in this country remain so many. Today, hundreds of similar events are being held around the world. We are part of a growing global voice exposing the crime of enforced disappearances and calling for action against the perpetrators. The breadth of the communities represented here today is a powerful statement that governments must listen to and act on, and David Shubich summed that up so clearly. I warmly thank the Global Voice for Humanity and the South Asian Policy Initiative for organising today's event and bringing us together, and I hope and I'm sure there will be many more. Today, August 30, International Day of Victims of Enforced Disappearances, is deeply painful for so many. Ruthless regimes have destroyed the lives of hundreds of thousands of innocent people. The families left grieve for decades, wondering, have their loved ones been jailed? Are they still alive? Have they been murdered in cold blood? Have they been tortured to death? This is simply unacceptable. The first protest for the rights of the disappeared that I know of occurred in 1977. I was pregnant with my first child, and I can remember being inspired by it as I'm looking forward to welcoming my children into this world. I'm hearing stories about mothers on the streets in Argentina demanding to know what's happened to their sons. And it was when 14 courageous mothers took on the ruthless fascist regime in Argentina. They went on into the streets and they went to one of the big squares there. And they turned up every month, every week, year after year. And 40 years later, they still turn up. Some of them are in wheelchairs, but they still come. We also need to thank Sydney's Bangladeshi community for organising today's event. Enforced disappearances and shocking crimes against civil society and those opposed to the government are on the rise in their country. A number of international human rights groups have documented the involvement of the paramilitary group Rapid Action Battalion, along with police, army and security agencies in extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances. So much of this is on the record now, as David Shoebridge pointed out. It's time the Australian government spoke up about this. Earlier this year, the UN human rights experts called on the Bangladeshi government to end reprisals against human rights defenders and relatives of forcibly disappeared persons for cooperating with human rights groups and UN agencies. That's been made a crime for some people in Bangladesh. Recent comments from the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, reveal how serious the situation is under the Bangladeshi government. She spoke about the lack of progress in investigations and has encouraged the Bangladeshi government to create an independent mechanism that works closely with victims, family and civil society to investigate allegations of enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. Bachelet has said that services of her office are available to the Bangladeshi government, but so far, not surprisingly, that has not been taken up, and that they're ready to give advice to show that the body that needs to be designed meets international standards. So that's all on the record, but again, the crimes of the Bangladeshi government continue. And this is where there is a role for the Australian government. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, the Foreign Minister Penny Wong, should urge Bangladesh to follow the advice of the UN Commissioner for Human Rights, accept the offer of assistance, and invite the UN Working Group on Enforced Disappearances to visit Bangladesh. There are now so many international groupings working on this, which shows the strength of the movement, but also reminds us how much more we have to do. I also acknowledge many significant struggles for the disappeared and the loved ones around the world, and I apologise that I cannot mention them all in detail, but there are two that I did want to comment on. I visited Sri Lanka and Kashmir, and again with families still searching for the loved ones. That was one of the hardest experiences of my life, listening to people describe the upset and the fear and the horror that they still live with, just wondering what has happened. In Kashmir, pain and grief was etched on the faces of so many people that I met. It is estimated that more than 10,000 Kashmiris have been taken off the streets and out of their homes as a tactic of the Indian government to demonstrate and suppress the Kashmiri struggle for self-determination. In Sri Lanka, in 2009, tens of thousands of Tamils were killed and disappeared. And I pay tribute to the Tamil mothers of the disappeared. They have passed more than 2,100 days of continuous protests, looking for their loved ones, demanding answers. And that is another issue that needs our support and our government to speak up. These two visits had a huge impact on me. And clearly, the crimes must stop. We need to give ongoing support to the families of the disappeared. The new Australian government should be a leading global voice for justice for the disappeared, for the perpetrators of the crimes to be held to account, and for all nations to ratify the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance. The strength of today is that we stand together for the common endeavour to end the suffering, to end the kidnappings, to end the killings. Let's take a collective commitment that every year on the 30th of August we will gather together to fight for the rights of the disappeared and for their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee. Yes, collective commitment. We need collective commitment. And Lee has given us the hope that it is working. It is working. And we must not forget many of our brothers in different parts of the world, like Uyghur Muslim in China. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to call upon a person to tell us the stories of ethnic cleansing in this modern world. Renunga Itmakumar from Tamil Refugee Council. Please welcome Renunga Itmakumar.
Before I begin this speech, I'll start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that I'm on. This is stolen Aboriginal land. Sovereignty was never ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and recognise that Australia was founded on the genocide and dispossession of First Nations people. I would also like to acknowledge that we will have a moment of silence for all Elam Tamils who have fought for freedom, who have been killed by the Sri Lankan regime, as well as the many refugees who died trying to seek safety from their terror. Thank you. It is surreal standing in front of New South Wales Parliament at a rally that demands justice from the Elam Tamils all over the world from Tamil Elam. The last time I stood here with my Elam Tamil flag, banners and individuals from our community was in 2009 when I was just 6 years old. We demanded accountability for the horrific acts of genocide perpetrated at the highest peak in 2009. At the highest peak in 2009, we stood at every corner, and yet no one in that building came out and discussed with us the justice we deserve. No one in that building, no one in other positions of power, and no one in the world listened. I stand here after 13 years, and I stand here demanding the same issue and the justice our community must achieve is the enforced disappeared and the lack of international states and supposedly the heroic UN not providing any support whatsoever for the Elam Tamils. For 2,000 days and ongoing, Elam Tamil families have been rallying in the northern and eastern provinces of Tamil Elam, of our homeland, for the forcibly disappeared loved ones that were taken away and not given back. The Office of Missing Persons has lacked independence and have not held any perpetrators accountable. Despite the lack of progress made by the OMP, Sri Lanka continues to suggest to the international community that justice and accountability can be achieved domestically. There needs to be the ongoing realization that the Tamil families of the disappeared have faced surveillance and harassment by Sri Lankan security forces in an attempt to silence their pursuit of justice. Earlier this year, the coordinator of Muluneva Disappeared Relatives Association, Maria Suresh Aswal, was admitted to hospital with injuries after Sri Lankan police officers pushed her during a protest against former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa's visit to Jaffna. Shame! The barbaric act of the mechanisms on the Elam Tamils is horrendous and is illegal in the act of genocide. From ICL Tamil Radio London, there was a witness who escaped the torture and interrogation. Prior to 2000 May, in January, he witnessed over 700 Elam Tamils murdered There have been instances of a male victim dying within half an hour as a soldier brutally attacked him and held his testicles severely. Shame! Nails were peeled off, and every single individual was raped harshly, even when they were unconscious. Shame! There were also instances of individuals being forced to eat human feces. This was before May 2009. Before May 2009, and yet no one has said anything. No one has said anything when our easy Elan tunnels were degraded worse than an animal. Shame! For those who have taught us Elan tunnels that Gothenburg and Rajapaksa is no longer in the picture, it should be noted that other individuals who are in power, such as Ranil Wickremesinghe, still continue the chauvinistic ideology from 1948 to now. Shame! The Office of Missing Persons was formed during the President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who came to office through the Parliament when he was Prime Minister under President Maithripala Sirisena. If there are any Christian individuals here, all Christian individuals all over the world and the Vatican, why is it that St. Patrick's College in Tomalila, in which my father attended, was a prestige Catholic Tamil school in the Catholic community, yet when Father Francis Joseph, former rector, disappeared after surrendering to the Sri Lankan army in May 2009 and has not been found since? Shame! Catholic priest Father Francis Joseph wrote to the Pope from inside the no-fire zone, calling on the church to break its silence on the massacre of Elan Tamils and the disappeared. 3 pages to the Vatican for pleading for help and expressing a sense of abandonment. It was written in a bunker. The BBC contacted the Vatican for a comment, but it is yet to receive a response. To the Christian Catholic countries, the Sri Lankan Cardinal, to the supposedly Catholic Australia, where are all our people? Where is your aid? Where were you? And why are you still silent of the ongoing genocide perpetrated on Elan Tamils? Bishop Manor, an individual who was able to escape from the torture in Trincomalee, he witnessed an individual who was tortured, had mucus all over his face, and was unable to identify him due to the harsh torture mechanism used on this individual. The second day in captivity, this innocent Elan Tamil died. He even stated that in early 2013, the Commission for Justice and Peace of the Catholic Diocese of Jaffna wrote a letter to the President and members of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Sri Lanka and points out that Bishop of Manor, Dr. R. Joseph, has stated that 146,679 Tamil people were missing at that time and still unaccounted for from findings of reports and stats. Sadly, he passed away. But these numbers could change with more eyewitnesses and statistics to be found. The Sri Lankan government will never take our statistics or our media numbers, neither will the United Nations. Shame! Sri Lanka is the second highest nation with enforced disappearances. Shame! Second highest, and even that number that is displayed, being 12,226, is considered false by our Elan Tamils who were witnesses. Shame! The Vatavaha Bridge in the northeast of our nation was a bridge where thousands walked. Tamil men, women, and children. They never returned. The water was covered with dead bodies and blood. The name of this bridge haunts our nation. The mothers and fathers walking on the bridge feel the blood seep into the cracks of their feet as they reminisce about handing over their family, not knowing at the time what would happen to them. Eyewitnesses of this genocide who are here in Australia have told me firsthand of what occurred on that bridge. Babies were crushed by those trying to flee. Elam Tamils had to step over dead bodies on the bridge, and many have described that they felt like cattle being herded into a slaughterhouse, not knowing what would happen to them. Shame! The gunshots would ring in the distance as the Sri Lankan army went around the bunkers, killing the Elam Tamils trying to escape, and carried themselves out of bunkers when half their bodies were blown up. Our mothers have stood on the streets with their black flags, not under the Sri Lankan flag, but the black flag that represents a continuous oppression the Elam Tamils endure. But I would never forget women like Salvarani Amma, who passed away earlier this year as a 75-year-old mother who stood with other Elam Tamils, demanding the answers of where her son, son-in-law, and grandson are. There is video evidence where the police are continuously pushing her and the other protesters, and yet she still stood there as a fragile woman on the outside, but a fiery personality on the inside. I will never forget that video of her raising her hand and pleading as the police continuously shove her. Her last words were, "I want to see them before I die." She passed on without any justice delivered to her or her family. She passed away, becoming one of over 135 Tamils who have died while protesting for their forcibly disappeared family members with no answers and no justice. Shame! How is it that this globe, this world, these superpower nations did nothing? They stood by aiding a malicious, vile, disgusting government and allowed our Elam Tamils to be stripped from our hands. Indira Gandhi in 1983 said herself that Tamils were enduring a genocide. To all the nations who supposedly listened to other leaders, why did you ignore Indira Gandhi, who stated that it was genocide and an ongoing genocide? When it is other nations who are a different color, they are not ignored. But when it is the people of a darker tone, we are seen as third world countries to other nations and experiencing trouble. When UK PM David Cameron went to Jaffna, he witnessed mothers protesting and saw the disappeared situation in the Jaffna province. Yet it is 2022 and he has done nothing. Shame! There is also the Australian role in training police and the naval forces. The naval forces are a significant factor in using their ships and weapons to destroy Elam Tamils and be a part of the enforced disappearances aspect. The massacre is only known now, but we as Elam Tamil know that the state of emergency was incorporated for 40 years under terrorism, in which our people were taken to be disappeared. The Tiger commanders, our heroes, came with the white flag to surrender in 2009, and the United Nations were involved. Yet where are our heroes who surrendered? The world believes that what occurred was a civil war. They believe that we are the minority. While I stand here outside the New South Wales Parliament, I will say this that will repeat it from my elders. We are the majority in our homeland, Tamil Elam. What was perpetrated against us was and is still the act of genocide, according to the international law that nations are expected to follow. I myself have met 4 strong mothers, and I will never forget what they told me. We will not stop, but when we pass, you must promise that you find our children. I was honored to hear their stories and see their resilience. Seeing images and videos, I think of revolutionary fighter Bhagat Singh, who stated, "A nation cannot be crushed. No matter day by day, these mothers won't stop. We will never stop, and we won't." Since 1948, we have risen. We strongly believe those who were murdered, those who were shot, the blood that seeped into the soil of Tamil Elam, they provide the strength to hold the mothers up on their feet, no matter how tired they are. The blood was left in the soil of Tamil Elam to carry in our strength and to ensure we do not forget. As the Elam Tamil youth, we as a nation will carry on this urgency and awareness of the history, present of the enforced disappearances and our struggle. To those who are listening, us Elam Tamils were taught by our ancestors and are still being taught what it means to resist. The parents who are on the streets every day show us. Our Tamil Elam leader quoted, It is sure that one day Tamalila will arise. It is sure that you also, our people, will attain release. It is sure that our country, as an egalitarian society, will flourish. With this hope and determination of spirit, we shall, without hesitating, march heroically on our way for liberation. We want justice. We want accountability of the genocide. We want our nation back, and we will not stop until this is delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Renika. Lots of stories to share. We are in solidarity with you, and we want justice for you also. Now we are moving to another person. We are running a bit out of time, so we will try to be, a bit brief. We know that we have lots of stories to share. So our next speaker, so from one of the most persecuted ethnic groups in the human history. They have been living in their land for many centuries, for millennia probably, but they have been excluded. And they say that no, Rohingyas are not the people of those lands. No, we don't agree. They are the people of that land. May I now welcome Mohammad Rose, Director, Arakan Rohingya Development Association. Mr. Mohammad Rose, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I really appreciate all of you to join together to demonstrate the 30 August International Day Victim of the Enforced Disappearances. We are here from Sikh community, Rohingya community, Bangladeshi community, Indian community, Sri Lankan community, and many more others also. Many, even though not coming here, we know from other different communities what is happening in the world. We recently finished 25th August, that is Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day, 5th of Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day. Till today, inside Arakan, in Burma, so our people are still facing genocide. Genocide started in Burma before independence of the Burma since 1942. 2017 was the last genocide, but still inside Burma there is genocide still happening. That is the reason Burmese government not allowing international reporters, international media to come and get the information. That is the evidence, that is the proof. Burmese government doing genocide till today, 19th century. It is shame. It is shame. Here is government, all government, UN body, everyone knows genocide is happening in Arakan state. Today, our majority of brothers and sisters in refugee camp of Bangladesh government having overlook of this victim, genocide survivors. Also, inside Arakan, Arakan is the open prison, the biggest open prison in the world. There is no other. The biggest open prison for humanity. Today, every one of Rohingya, our brothers and sisters, having genocide. So no one should ignore us. Australian government, Australian community, international community, everyone should coordinate each other's problem. No genocide should be in today's 19th century. It is shame. It is shame for all of us. No community, no human being should disappear from their land, from their home. We are human. We are human beings. We all human beings should respect each other. Doesn't matter what about the country, doesn't matter what about the race, Doesn't matter whatever the issue, but end of the day, we are human beings. Human beings should respect equal rights. We don't have rights. We don't have rights in Burma. Today, we don't have rights. That's why our people are suffering genocide. Our people have been traveling to Malaysia, to Indonesia, coming at the end of the day to Australia. So we need to stop all genocide, what is happening today, all trafficking, all suffering people. We need to coordinate each other. In this world, no one should suffer. Nowhere to be happen genocide. Nowhere to be happen trafficking. We all must join together hand to hand, get the solidarity, coordinate each other, coordinating with the government and UN bodies. We must stop genocide. We must stop genocide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mudra. Together with you, we all demand that Naraka Rohingyas are returned to their land. May I now call upon, I will have to rush a bit quickly because we are running a bit out of time. As I told you, it's been how many years? Since 1947 or so. It's been an open-air prison. May I now call upon Brother Anzim Rafiki to share their stories from Kashmir community. Anzim Rafiki. Thank you.
Good evening all. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the Gadigal land that we stand on today. I pay respect to the elders, past, present, and emerging. Sovereignty is the receiving. This was a Gadigal land and this will remain ever. Enforced disappearances and the colonization of Kashmir are intricately linked, more linked than anyone can ever imagine. The struggle to end the subjugation of a nation did not start in 1947, when the British left the Indian subcontinent. It started long before. In 1947, we just marked an unfortunate page in our history, one we continue to bear the consequences of to this day. A nation divided by borders and denied the most basic of human rights, the right to self-determination. I pay homage to the first half-widow of Kashmir, Haba Khatun, the Queen, who turned poetess upon the illegal abduction of the last independent ruler of Kashmir, Yusuf Shah Chak, by the Mughal Emperor Akbar in 1579. Haba Khatun enshrines the sufferings of the women of Kashmir, who continue searching for their kith and kin with very little on their side except hope. Indian occupation of modern-day Kashmir is built on the graveyards of Kashmiris, and each day here has a memory of its own. Massacres, murders, rapes, crackdowns, forced disappearances. Today, we are reminded of hundreds of thousands of families globally whose sons, brothers, husbands, and fathers have been missing for years. All humans, members of our own species, blood, flesh and bones, just like us. They have been denied existence. The colonizers, rather they are forgotten. As they are, they disappear. The families of missing people constantly have their eyes glued to the door with hope. Amongst them, the mother of a boy named Hilal, calling out for him, hoping for his miraculous return. Hilal was picked up by the Indian forces in Kashmir and got listed as disappeared. I'm reminded of a son looking for his father, who disappeared in custody. The son had just passed his 5th grade, and he wanted to see his father and communicate the good wish, the news to his father. Then there's the unspoken trauma of the man who has lowered numerous unidentified bodies into graves in a location undisclosed to the families. He marks the bodies in his own way with a hope that one day, if ever someone comes to inquire about them, they will be able to ascertain the identity of the unidentified. These stories leave a common thread of oppression and yearning and hope as well across the globe. Borrowing from the Iron Lady of History, Parvina Ahanga, enforced disappearances are more painful than death. When someone dies, he has a grave. His family sees his dead body, touches his face. There is emotional closure. But when your child is taken away and disappears, you don't know what to do. You struggle between longing and hope. You don't know where he is, what he is doing, or what happened to him. There is so much trauma and so many storms rage inside you. Tens of thousands of disappeared Kashmiris are yet to be accounted for, with thousands of unidentified bodies lying in unmarked graves across Kashmir. Enforced disappearances in Kashmir have left a trail of broken families and traumatized children. The lack of closure has left thousands of women living as half-widows. They have been disappeared at the hands of the Indian Armed Forces, who have used enforced disappearances as a tactic to spread fear and terror in Kashmir, a tool of intimidation and to exercise control over an unwilling population. Today, in addition to the families of the disappeared, let's not forget those who champion their cause, journalists and activists, lawyers and human rights activists. In Kashmir, journalist Fahad Shah, Asif Sultan, Sajjad Kul, and globally recognized human rights defender Ram Parvez, they continue to be incarcerated for their principal stand. They are arrested on false charges of terrorism, as well as hundreds of others who have not even been charged. I also call out the deceitful Indian media, where pseudo-nationalism has been allowed to trump over professional journalism. The biggest of letdowns in any democratic system is the judiciary. The Indian judiciary, with a very few exceptions, with their silence and delay, have become accomplices in the state terrorism that continues to haunt and colonize Kashmir. In this struggle for justice, we are not alone, as we just heard from so many others. These are crimes against humanity. They're not against Muslims, they're not against Christians, they're not against Tamils, they're not against Kashmiris, they're not against Sikhs. They are crimes against humanity. Hence, the international community must pressurize these various despotic governments, including the Indian government, to conduct a fair probe under the auspices of international agencies to ascertain facts about the thousands of cases of disappearances. For India, in Kashmir, in Punjab, in Nagaland, and so on. Due to various forms of information blockades enforced by the Indian state in Kashmir, and possibly due to the indifference of the global community in the face of other competing priorities, members of victim families are unable to garner enough support. Support enough to be effective to help deliver justice. Today, yet again, let's call upon the UN and the Australian government and the wider international community to end this decades-old stalemate in various areas. With regards to Kashmir, let's release all the detainees, resolve the Kashmir issue as per the aspirations of the Kashmiri people. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Anshu, for sharing your stories. We have few more communities to share their stories. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Now it's time for Bangladeshi community, but to make it brief, I would like to actually call upon the Bangladeshi speakers, because there are many groups from many parties are here who were the members of organizing committee. May I now call upon them all together on the stage just to minimize our time. So first of all, let me call upon leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party and a member of the organizing committee, Muslimuddin Arif and Putrullah Litan on the stage, please. May I also call upon member of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, leader of the BNP Australia, representing Zia Forum, Sohail Mahmoud Iqbal and Muhammad Haider Ali, please. Please come onto the stage. And also, I would like to call upon Mr. Farooq Hussain and Mr. Rashid Khan from KR Bangladesh. They are representing Jamaat Islami Bangladesh. Could you please all come up onto the stage? Let me introduce all of them and let me give you a brief summary what's happening in Bangladesh, what they want to talk about, and then I will go to them for their brief comment. You know, ladies and gentlemen, enforced disappearance became a regular phenomenon in Bangladesh, an integral part of the civic vocabulary today. But when we grew up, we never heard about abduction. We never heard about enforced disappearance or anything like that. This is completely new to us, unfortunately. You know, the Rapid Action Battalion and the police started abducting opposition leaders, and particularly the victims, the victims, as you can see the pictures, the BNP leaders and Jamaat Islami leaders. They targeted those who could make big difference to the grassroots political affairs to mobilize the people like Ilyas Ali. He could mobilize people and they couldn't tolerate him. They have abducted. The list grew longer in every year. The human rights group has documented that 619 people were abducted and disappeared by the security forces and law enforcement agencies of Bangladesh. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The number is even bigger. The extreme fear of losing more of their loved ones prevent them from raising voice against the perpetrators. They can't talk. They don't dare to come here even. One may ask the question that why the victims are so afraid. Can't they approach the judiciary to seek justice? The answer is a giant no. To afford justice to the victims, the criminal justice institution need to be competent with independence from political interference and professionalism. And that does not exist in Bangladesh under Sheikh Hasina's regime. What a shame. The Sheikh Hasina regime rewards the perpetrators. Listen to me again. Rewards the perpetrators with lucrative position and medal, all these things, and even bigger position, bigger salaries, rewards. Injustice, impunity, inhuman and degrading treatment persist in Bangladesh. The victims cry for justice. In domestic jurisdiction, the doors to justice are closed. The crime against humanity and mass atrocity crimes must not go unpunished. And that's why we are here today. Ladies and gentlemen, just very briefly, I gave you an overview of Bangladesh situation. And let's have a listen to few words from the brothers of the organizing committee and also leaders of the BNP and Jamaat Islami and CARE Bangladesh very briefly. Yes.
Thank you for participating, all of our organization and other countries' peoples. We are here, whatever our brother
say that's happening in our country, in Bangladesh, last 1 decade and more. Actually, we want justice. We want to stop doing this. This is against the humanitarian and the big crime for the peaceful peoples. They are disappearing and more that's going on. We need to act now. We need to right now bring them justice, and we want whoever disappeared and abducted, we want to get back. Thank you.
Leader and community leader and one of the member of the organization. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, everyone, and honorable guest and speaker. This is absolutely an honor to be here and being a part of Global Protest International Victims and Disappearance Day. As a Bangladeshi community and BNP Australia leaders, I would like to acknowledge Australia Parliament members and other speakers who are present and journalists. I like to acknowledge about BNP Chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia. She is an example of big victim of Bangladesh by judicial system, by this illegal government. So that today is not an international day of missing person. Today is International Corruption Day. Today is the abducting voting rights day. Today is the day of abducting our democracy. Give my back to my brother and sister. Stand against the missing, murdering, torturing, army, votes, stealing government, and take back Bangladesh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Uddin Arif. Mr. Diwan Ismail from Freedom Party. Mr. Diwan Ismail from Freedom Party, also one of the member of the organizing committee. May I have you on the stage, please? Now I'm moving to Mr. Kudratullah Leighton, BNP leaders and member of the organizing committee.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I would like to say one thing, that in my country, in my house, or I'm living in Australia in my own house, I can see a bird can make a nest near my window. I can see a lizard can talk each other. I can see the red ants running behind my backyard or front yard. They have their own rights. Birds got their own rights. Lizards got their own rights. The ants got their own rights. But in Bangladesh, as a human, we don't have any rights there. Not for voting, not for freedom of speech, anything. We don't have any speech in Bangladesh. This government stops everything. We don't have any rights for vote or anything. People are disappearing, increasing their voice, raising their voice. It should stop now. And we have to get together, everybody, and we have to be organized more things to stop these things in the world as well as in Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brother Sohail Iqbal Mahmood from Singapore, one of the members of the organizing committee and BNP leader. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to speak today as a member of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party and President of Jafra Studio. Today is International Disappearance Day, and this is a difficult day for many of us. If we exercise our conscience, it is impossible to ignore the pressing issue of politically motivated abduction and disappearance. I thank SAPI and Global Voice for humanity, for organizing this event, as they must take this time to reflect and seek justice. The Bangladeshi Nationalist Party in Australia served the ethos of former President Ziaur Rahman, the declarer of Bangladeshi independence and freedom fighter in Bangladesh world. As a Bangladesh is a young country, many of us remember the struggle for independence and have seen Bangladesh develop from the citizens to become the force in its region. Independence was achieved at the cost of millions of lives and at the rate of thousands of women and girls, and the massacre of leading intellectuals. This struggle was one liberation and has thankfully brought much fruit. The Bangladeshi economy has lifted millions of into literacy, health, and opportunity, and has seen as a developed deep rise in globally. However, there are still deep faults on the governance of Bangladesh, though family commodity, a hybrid reading in the economy's intelligence. Units of democracy index currently faces a dark age of authoritarianism. Oppositions are greatly suppressed. The leaders such as Begum Khaleda Zia are imprisoned on the overt charges. Alarmingly, many of the opposition leaders across the generation have been abducted, killed, or imprisoned under the flimsy pretenses. A family of those abducted spend their days waiting for answers or for their loved one to return. Many times there is completely inadequate investigation. This is not humanity, but a brutality. Australia is a home of many Bangladeshi immigrants, and it pains us to see unfair election, their doctrines, and disregard for the rule of law in Bangladesh. Bangladeshi people have endured instability in the region, and this causes us great distress and strokes of insecurity even across the ocean. Hopefully, the voice of this protest will reach governments like Bangladesh as well. Hope to see action to address the lawless disregard for victims of disappearance. Bangladesh Zindabad.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Mr. Syed Iqbal Mahmood. Please stay there. Now, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, one of the worst victims of these enforced disappearances which is going on in Bangladesh. Now, I would like to introduce Mr. Farooq Hussain, representing Jamaat Islami, another really worst victim of this enforced disappearance. Mr. Farooq Hussain will be brief.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Thanks to Global Voice of Humanity, thanks to South Asia, also thanks to Amnesty International for their kind support, for their strength, for their coordination and communication for this program today. Today is the International Day of the Victims of the Enforced Disappearance. I'd like to just, the time, I'd like to mention a few scenarios of our US brothers, how they are abducted. Ladies and gentlemen, every day in Bangladesh, people, innocent people are kidnapping, abducting by this government, by the Sheikh Hasina government. Ladies and gentlemen, all of our brothers, 2012, February 2nd, name is Waliullah. Also name is Mukaddes. They are going to university there as a student. They just picked up by the road, by the red and police force. And since then, no one knows where they are. No one knows. Even their family, they don't know until today where they are. Instead, they're alive or in prison or somewhere they're hiding. Ladies and gentlemen, another brother of ours, Minister Mal, he was abducted in 2016 in front of their family, in front of his wife, in front of his kids. He just gone from that day. No one knows. He was the minister of Bangladesh Supreme Court. Ladies and gentlemen, every day their kids, their wife, waiting every day when their father coming. If someone knocked the door, their kids thinking their father came back, but not until today. No, he hasn't come back yet. Where he is? We don't know where he is. Ladies and gentlemen, another brother is Brigadier General Brother Aman Azmi. He was a Brigadier General. It's not funny. He was seen why he was abducted from his home in front of his own mother until today no one knows. 2016, it was a black day. It was a black day for the Bangladesh. It was a shame day for the Bangladesh. We don't know what's the problem. Just problem was he just criticized our government. That's all. Ladies and gentlemen, our demand is today to the world leaders, to the UN, to stop this kind of operation by the help of Indian government, Pradhan Modi ji, with the help of raw secret or our neighbors, secret agency raw. Ladies and gentlemen, please stop this criminal activity and return our brother to our family. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bangladesh community and the organizers. Everyone, please stay back. We have just, couple of more speakers to share their stories. Let me welcome Mr. Ian Rintol, Refugee Action Coalition, Sydney. Mr. Ian Rintol, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thanks very much to the Bangladeshi community and the leaders and the political organisations for putting this protest on today. Like others, I want to acknowledge the traditional owners of Australia and recognise the tremendous struggle that they have had against genocide and enforced disappearances, which haven't ended to this day. And their struggle continues, and we stand here in solidarity with their continued struggle for justice and their own human rights and land rights in this country. I don't need to go over today. We've seen so much from the different communities. I think there's a couple of points I want to make. And that's very, very clear just looking at the people who have turned out for this protest today, from Bangladesh, from the Rohingya, from the Kurds, from Sri Lanka, so many different places, that it's a common struggle. And I think that is a point that we need to understand, that the struggle for freedom and democracy doesn't know borders. It's not defined by those countries, it's not defined by the nationalism and the borders they draw on maps. The fact is that enforced disappearances are the kind of things which dictators use everywhere. And our struggle for freedom, our struggle for democracy doesn't know any borders. We stand here today, as other people have said, as human beings, as people who stand for freedom and democracy and recognise that fight has to be taken up internationally. But I want to make one other point. I can't speak as passionately about the experiences of the disappearances in the different countries. It's been very, very compelling to hear those stories about the struggle to go on in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, in our current state and other places. But I do want to make one point. We're gathered here today not just to send a message to the dictators of Bangladesh or the dictators of Myanmar or the present dictators of Sri Lanka. We have a message for them. Well, our message ultimately is that their days are numbered. But there is a movement, and we'll continue to organise and fight for democracy and freedom until we see the downfall of those dictators, whether they oppress people in Bangladesh or in West Papua or in Australia. But I think we also need to recognise that fight doesn't recognise any boundaries. And then we have got a message for our own Australian government. It's not just the government in those countries where those struggles go on. Because the fact is that the Australian government does not stand up internationally for human rights. Even though we've got rid of the Morrison government and we've got a new Labor government, the first thing the Home Affairs Minister did was to actually go to Sri Lanka to guarantee that the Sri Lankan Navy would have all the oil that they needed, never mind the people in Sri Lanka who line up for petrol, who line up for food, who can't even get the basics in their own country. But the Australian government has guaranteed fuel for the Sri Lankan Navy to ensure that those people who are fleeing Sri Lanka are turned back to Sri Lanka and won't get to Australia. And the reality is that the people who come, the Rohingyas, who have fled persecution and tried to get to Australia have also been subject to the same turn back policies of the Australian government. And I've said it before, but the fact is that a government which doesn't stand up for human rights in its own country is not going to stand up for human rights internationally. I mean, we look around the people who are standing here, it's no surprise that we've got people from so many different countries who are still on temporary visas, who are still on bridging visas, who haven't got the permanent visas that they deserve as refugees. Because so often the system has failed them because the country policies that they relied on have been concocted by the Department of Foreign Affairs, not on the basis of the human rights breaches which people in those countries are suffering, but on the basis of the self-serving needs of the Australian government. And the refugee decisions are made through the prism, of a government which is more concerned about its own international relations and trade relations than it is about human rights. So we do have a very, very strong message for Penny Wong, who's now going throughout Southeast Asia. But of course, she's spreading a word about war on China. Not about a fight for human rights, not a recognition of the fight for human rights in Southeast Asia, and Australia. She's more concerned to do deals with the dictators and with the repressive governments of Asia and Southeast Asia than she is to stand up for those human rights. So we stand here today in solidarity with those struggles in all the countries. We stand here in solidarity to say we have a fight in Australia for basic fundamental human rights. To have a country where people who need protection, when they come and they flee the terrors of Bangladesh, when they flee the terrors of Sri Lanka, the terrors of West Papua, the terrors in Myanmar, have a place where they can get safety. And we will fight for that struggle here. Our fight for freedom and democracy, as I said, doesn't know any boundaries. And the fight for the rights of those people who flee persecution, they have to be able to find that safety and protection in Australia if we're going to be able to stand on the international stage and say we will fight for the rights of repressed people everywhere. And as I say again, thanks very much for the opportunity. It's a great time to put it on as we see that everywhere we see so many dictators, the repressive regimes resort to the same measures. And it's not confined to the so-called dictatorships. We see, in fact, our own capitalist governments, our own so-called democratic countries use the same kinds of things. Think of the Black Lives Matter demonstrations when the police and the FBI started to pick up Black rights activists from the streets of Chicago and New York and other places. The fact is, I said before, the struggle for freedom knows no boundaries and knows no borders. We stand in solidarity for that struggle wherever there's repression, wherever there's dictatorship. We need to hold up the flag high for freedom and democracy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot. May I now welcome Mr. Amar Singh. Mr. Amar Singh will be telling us, he's from Tarbanpur, Australia. Many of you know him very well. Yes, please welcome Mr. Amar Singh. And he is going to share the stories of the farmers in India and also Sikh community.
Thank you. Thank you all the members and guests and everyone that's put this great event together. Because even though our numbers are smaller than what it should be, but it matters that we stand here today. In Australia, where our life is comfortable, yet we don't forget what happens to our communities back home. Now, our same people, the same governments are treating us differently and unequally. All we ask for is the right to live, right to democracy, and right to be able to practice our religion and culture in the land that we are born, that we belong to. So today I want to share a bit of information about the Sansi Karma. Even the human rights activists who unearthed evidence of over 25,000 Sikh youth that were killed by the Indian police and the Punjab police. That's not a right figure. He only estimated a number from the amount of wood that the police used for making their bodies. The police had even killed over 3,000 police officers who did not participate in their violence against innocent people. So this is what we're talking about. Mr. Palmer himself was picked up outside his house, never to be seen again. He took
get a CBI, which is similar to the FBI or federal police here, to do an investigation and then charge the police officers for 10 years. The police kept denying the fact that he was even picked up. So this is what we're facing. And it's so sad to see people from all these different nationalities, countries, ethnicities suffering the same thing. Why? Because our language, our culture, our right to express ourselves better. And all these oppressors are concerned about oppressing our views, be it farmers' protests, be it the Rohingyas, be it the Tamils, be it the Sri Lankans, be it Bangladeshi people. It's all about crushing our soul. And I think everyone that turned up here has done a justice to keep the memory alive of those who cannot speak for themselves. We have to be their voice today here in this country as well and in other countries. So people don't forget where we come from, what the suffering was. This is not just something we read online or in books. This is a lived experience of our people that are suffering. We all know somebody that has suffered these consequences. I remember one of the things that Mr. Kawra said, that in many villages, there were no wedding for Americans after 15, 20 years. All of the youth were wiped out of those families. That's not just the 24,000 people that he estimated. It was millions of people and families who suffered behind them. And even now, it's very important for us to raise our voice, raise our concern in a civilized way that we can enforce the beliefs of these people and their right to live and their right to worship, their right to have a life in their own country. So we must stand united. Shame on these people. Shame.
Thank you, Mr. Ambershek, for your participation and adding value to our demonstration. I would now like to call upon, last but not least, Joe Collins from West Papuan community. Mr. Joe Collins, please.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief as I know I'm running late. I was open speaker, Ronnie cannot be here today, but I'm part of the Australian Public Association and we raise awareness on the issue. Now, I'll be very brief. When we speak about West Papua, we're speaking about the western half of the island of New Guinea. It used to be a Dutch colony. In 1961, the Dutch were going to give the West Papuans some freedom, but they were betrayed by the international community. They were handed over to the Indonesian administration after a few months of UN administration. And ever since then, the human rights abuses, the military operations, and the killings began. West Papua was taken off the UN Decolonization Committee, the Committee of the United Nations Decolonization Committee. And this year alone, the United Nations have raised grave concerns about the human rights abuses in West Papua, the military operations. Over 60,000 internal refugees have fled the military operations this year. Another human rights organization, Indonesia Watch, it's a German organization, and then they put in a submission to the UN on Indonesia, which is be held UPO in November. They document 22 disappearances between 2019 and 2021. In West Papua, there's a pattern to disappearances. West Papuans are arrested because they are suspected to be members of the Free Papua movement and they disappear. Or during military operations, West Papuan civilians are killed. The Indonesians hide the bodies so they don't have to face any legal consequences. And just last Friday, local villagers found 4 sacks floating in the river containing bodies of West Papuans that have been killed by the Indonesian security forces. And Australia trains the Indonesian military. This is what the Indonesian military does in West Papua. Commits human rights abuses by training everything we train in the professional army. We have totally failed. The Indonesian security forces act with impunity in West Papua. And the UN specialists have called from Jakarta to allow the UN Human Rights Commission to investigate the human rights abuses in West Papua. And Australia should, where a special relationship with Indonesia that we're supposed to have, should be pushing into Jakarta to allow such a mission to take place. And that's what we want West Papua as well, for the UN to go to their territory and investigate the human rights situation in the territory. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are now almost at the end of our program. Now, I would now like to call upon the senior member of the organizing committee, editor-in-chief of the only Bangladeshi community newspaper in Australia, Shukrabat Sydney, and founder of BNP Australia. And along with him, may I now call upon Mr. Farooq Khan, a senior Bangladeshi community leader and leader of the BNP Australia, Mr. Farooq Khan, Farooq Ahmed Khan, Liaquat Ali Shapon, Haider Ali, Brother Haider Ali, would you please come up onto the stage? And we are going to conclude our program now. So I hand it over to Mr. Abdullah Yusuf.
Thank you very much again and again. I would like to acknowledge my guests, my friends, my colleagues, and some of the organizations here, especially Channel 5, my colleague Hanif Bismi, all the way he come from and join this program, and also so many media, community media today was here. I would like to also acknowledge my colleague Liaquat Ali Shapon to be here, and we can see one of the most senior member of Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Farooq Ahmed Khan, and along with leader of the IPDC, I would like to thank again, and also Bangladeshi refugee in Australia Incorporated people are here, and also Hot Kotha Media, Habib, and also Dr. Farooq Amin from Supravat Sydney, and also Zakir Hussain from another media we can see. And today's special attraction was Rahat Santunu, who was actually started singer, and we all know he is very prominent. Give him a good clap, please. Everybody hands together. And we really appreciate today's program to make it easy and successful one. We hope we will see you very soon. But before you go, just one announcement. We need sanction to this killer government, Sheikh Hasina. Yes? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah Yusuf Shamim. May I acknowledge the presence of one of the most senior community leader, Mr. Ruhul Amin, Brother Ruhul Amin, and I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Rashidul Islam, Dr. Shirazul Islam, Engineer Irtas Bhai, and all of the community leaders. Without your support, we couldn't actually make this successful today. With this, thank you everybody, and I hope that we will not have to raise our voice over and over again, because we believe that their conscience will work for the humanity and they will stop all these atrocities worldwide. Thank you everybody. Once again, thank you.